Hello YouTubers. In this video we're going to be working on my son's 2015 BMW 320i with the N20 motor. The issue that we're going to be resolving in this video is the thermostat. It's causing a check engine light on the motor or on the car, and we're going to replace the thermostat. What I'm also going to be doing in this video is replacing all of the hoses associated with the thermostat. Now, why would I do that when they're not a problem? Well, I like preventative maintenance, as you've seen in all of these other videos of mine. I may as well go ahead and change out these hoses. I've got to disconnect them anyway to get to the thermostat. So let's go ahead and disconnect the other side to associated areas like radiators, reservoir drugs, heads. We're going to just water pumps. Let's just go ahead and replace them all while we're in it. So that's the goal. Let me also mention that down at the bottom, if you look at the bottom, you're going to see a timeline, and I'm going to have chapters in there. Each hose and each item that we replace, we're going to put into a chapter, so that if you want to forward to a specific area to see how to replace the hose that you specifically are looking for, it'll be in the chapters below. Now, one other thing that we're going to be doing with this video is we're going to be bleeding the system. You'll see that as well. And we're going to be changing out the radiator hose connection at the head that goes from the thermostat. I've got a new hose for that, but we're going to be tearing that brand new hose apart and into a bazillion pieces, as you will see in the video, because we're going to change the connection type at the head. When we get to the part, I'll go over it in greater detail. You're going to see that the connection at the head to the hose is plastic. I'm going to remove the plastic and then bought an aluminum piece that will not fail. So it's a little bit over and above than what's necessary, but at the same time, it's preventative maintenance. If these things fail, I want to go ahead and repair them now and be done with it. So let's start the video. So here is our issue. This is the code. And if you Google it, you're going to find that the solution is to replace the thermostat. So that's what we're going to do. So what is this tangled mess? Well, this is what we're going after. All the parts you're going to see in the subsequent clips are related to this. This is out of a beat up BMW, I guess. I just pulled this picture out just to kind of give you a visual idea of the mess we're about to entangle ourselves with, because this is the coolant system. The device you see on the left side is the thermostat, and the hoses that are connected to it that are ultimately connected to other things. And those are what we're going after in this video. So here we are with the parts. Let's go over that real quick. This is the part I bought, the thermostat. It's a Mali part, recommended to me from FCP Euro, and here is the part number. A link to it will be down in the description below. Here's a closer look of the part. Not much to it, 3 connections off of it. And then here is a look at the diagram of where it is and what's connected to the thermostat. So a moment ago, you heard me mention that we're going to be tearing one part into a bazillion pieces, and that is this part. This goes from the thermostat to the head, and you can see where it screws into the head. We're going to be breaking that plastic piece and the aluminum ring holding it on and tearing that off. All we want is the hose ultimately. Here is a closer look of the part. We're going to be breaking that up. And then here is where it is connected to the engine, part number 5. So after we finish tearing that plastic into pieces and that aluminum, taking that aluminum O-ring off, here is the aluminum part we're going to be inserting into the engine. And we're going to be taking that pipe and we're going to be making that connection with this clamp. This is just a closer look at the part. The next hose we're going to be replacing will be the upper radiator hose. And this goes from the upper radiator to the thermostat. Here's a closer look at the part. Not much to it, a couple of clips on either end. And here it is, part number 4. See where it goes from the radiator to the thermostat. The next hose we're going to be working on will be the water pump to thermostat hose, and that is this right here. Notice there's 2 connections off of it. We're going to be working on that as well. Here's a closer look at the part and those connections. And then here's where it is in the diagram. Down at the bottom, you'll see it, number 2. So here where things can get a little convoluted and confusing. This hose here goes from the radiator to another hose that we're going to be talking about in just a minute. This is just a larger view of it. And here's where it's located in the engine. It goes from the radiator, from below the upper radiator hose to this hose here. This is that hose. If you see the connection down in the lower left corner, that's where that hose is going to connect to that we just talked about. But this hose here connects, like it shows here in this diagram, from the water pump to the engine on the head side, if you can see it, number 5, if you see that. And number 7 is where it connects to the water pump. And the top left corner is where that hose we just talked about connects to. And then this ultimately connects back over to the other side of the head. So convoluted part, but does quite a bit, but we're replacing it while we're in here. So the last hose is the recovery tank hose. From the recovery tank to another hose, which I'll show you. This is just a larger view of it. Here is where it is in space. It goes from the recovery tank, and this is where it connects to on the other hose that we just previously mentioned, the water pump to thermostat hose, and it connects right there. So before I begin any work on the car, the first thing I always do is create some room. And for me, that's going to be taking this air box out. So let's get this out of the way. I disconnected this here, and it's right there. I unscrewed this, that way this will just come apart easily, which it does. Set it aside. Next, let's take out this bottom air box. Like so, just lifts out of place. You can see it looks like it wants to slide back into that groove. Anyway, that's out. Tons of room now. Effing complicated as hell looking though, but can't complain. Tons of room here. I think the next thing I want to get out is this box here. Looks like it just slides into that clip there and gets unscrewed from here. So let me do those two things. If you see residual oil in this intake tube, it's completely normal. This is PCV system, so it's meant to send the oil from the crankcase back through the system, and getting oil back into here is fine, normal. If you see puddles of oil, quarts of oil, half a quarts of oil, or liters, you got a problem. Otherwise, you should expect to see some oil. Next thing I'm going to do is take off this cover. I want to get this pipe here. Oops, let's see what you see. This pipe here out. Looks like it squeezes into the intake, like so. This sensor. I'll show you the sensor in just a moment. Okay. So this pipe here had a sensor and has two clips here. They squeeze in on top of this hose here. So what we're going to do here now is, now that everything's out of our way, we have room to work. We're going to be replacing all of the pipes associated with the thermostat. And we're going to eventually replace the thermostat, but we're going to start by disconnecting everything that gets to the thermostat. So the first thing that we're going to start with is this one pipe, and we'll just keep moving from pipe to pipe until we get to the thermostat, and then the job will be completed. This is the hose that we're working on. So this is the part that we're talking about. We're from the water pump, which is that device down there, to here. And we got our connector for this right here for that right there, and the other side as well for this right here. So I think the first thing I want to do is to take this off from down here. You can see it's a worm gear. We'll put a screwdriver back there, and we're going to pull off that worm gear, and we're going to undo this top one as well with a worm gear. I'm going to try not to get in your way. Let me undo the first worm gear. I have a bucket under the car. Okay, that one is done. Let's get the top one. We're about to undo the clip for this hose here that goes from the coolant tank to that hose. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to pull up on these clips. So this clip here, I hope I'm showing it. So here's the clip. Just going to pull up on it. My pick. Okay. I got another one on the other side, so let me get that one while I'm here. I hope this shows it. They just pop up. All right. We should expect a gush. Yep. It's never going to be great. I hope my bucket's doing a good job below there. Let's see. Let's grab this top. Well, actually, let's grab this one down here. I'm trying to break this hose away from our hose we're after. Here we go. So our pipe is loose, but now we need to break it loose from these other two pipes. So I've been farting with this thing for a while. So what I ended up doing is around the edge of this, I just put my screwdriver in between it and the old piece, and it popped right out. So that's perfect. Now let's do the same for this other one. See if I can get it on. There we go. Our part is out. So on my new part, I need to put back on the fans. So while it's still fresh in my head, I'm gonna go ahead and put our pipe. I don't know if yours will come this way, but these have two white marks on the top. I'm guessing that's the top. There's not one on the bottom. This shows you the orientation. This is how I pulled it off. So, all right, let's get these back on. Okay. So here's a picture of a water pump. This is the orientation in the car as well. The pipe that we just removed and subsequently just put back on with the worm gear was the pipe facing forward. The pipe facing up goes to the head, and we're not messing with that pipe. We're not replacing pipes related to the water pump because that goes from the water pump to the head. We're worried about pipes that go from the water pump or that are to and from the thermostat. So I just wanted to show you what it was that I was putting that hose onto and subsequent worm gear. This is what it looks like. Now we're on to replacing the coolant reservoir tank hose that we disconnected at the bottom. I'll show you where it goes. This is the hose here. It goes into the water pump to thermostat hose, and it goes to the reservoir. So let me undo the clip down here, and we'll take this out. This part is already free. So it took some finagling, but there's my clip out. Now I should just be able to pull down and pull out. Here's the part. There's our new one. Let's put it in. One thing to note, there's a sensor back here, the level sensor, It's not connected to the hose. No need to worry about pulling that out. On our hose, there are two different size ends. That's a larger end, and that's a smaller end. The smaller end goes into the tank. Put in our short end, or smaller end. All right, she's in. I like to make doubly, triply sure. Okay. Pipe is in. We're going to wait and connect it up later when we hook up the water pump to thermostat hose. If you recall, on the other hose, we have this clip that hooked to the air intake. We're going to take that off and put it back on our new hose. Where exactly does it go yet? I don't know. We'll wait and line it up with the air box. But for now, at least make sure it's on there. So this is the hose we're working on now. It's from the radiator to the thermostat. Let's show you where it goes. It is right here on the thermostat, back to the radiator. So let's pull these clips on both sides and get that out. All right, let's get this clip. Add this clip. Sorry you can't see this one, but it's, I can't make the camera go everywhere. Now I'm just gonna pull it off. Let's pull this one off. All right, it just took a lot of force. But there she is in all her glory. What can you see there? You can't see it. All right, let's pop our new one back in, bringing up the clips. So it makes it easier to connect up. That side is in. The next part we're working on now is the thermostat. Okay, to take the thermostat out, the first thing I want to do is, or the next thing I want to do, is get this sensor off. Okay, to get the thermostat out, it takes T30s, and they're on the sides. Whoops, I'm hoping the camera's right here. But it doesn't take a lot of force. I believe there's only two, top and bottom, one right below one another. I'll show you better when I get the part out. Here's one screw. And that top screw. Here we go. Let's see if I can get this sensor cable unplugged. Looks like you fall out on it. Like so. So we just pull this out and it comes out. Okay, so thermostat's free. So the next hose is the one we're going to end up tearing apart, and that's from the thermostat to the head. So to get this hose here off, since I'm replacing the thermostat while I'm here, I'm not going to worry about disconnecting the hose. I'm just going to pull this off from the housing. Just so you know, the screws for here and the screws for the thermostat are the same size. Let's pull this off. There we go. One thing to make sure of is that the O-ring is not left up in there. We're gonna have a problem. It's still on here. If you can see it, it's right there. So that's our part. This is its orientation. So here's the coolant adapter that we're going to put into the head, and we're going to take apart the other hose. These here can crack and break and leave you stranded. So we're going to replace this hose but we need to get rid of this plastic piece because this is now going to butt into the engine. May not make sense, but let me show you. So here's what we have, our new part. It goes into the housing, bolts in, and there we go, just like that. Let me start our screws. Okay, our screws are in. They're not torqued. So in order to complete this thing properly, we need to lose this plastic end right here. So what I'm gonna have to do is get a pair of pliers and crush that into a bazillion pieces, because then we're going to take the hose clamp off that's currently on here mounted to this flange. We got our new flange. We're going to break this into pieces, get it off, take this O-ring off, and then it came with a supplied new clip that will take its place. So you may have a better way, but I put it in a vice grip, the head of this thing, tighten it down until it broke into pieces. Your way works, your way works. Now I'm just going to keep going at it until I get the rest of this pipe cleaned. Let's get the rest of the pieces out. All right, pipe is free. Now it can go onto here and we can use the clip that was supplied right here. Okay, I got my pliers. So here is the next part we're working on, and this goes from the water pump to the head. Kind of a complicated looking pipe, but it all makes sense because here it is, right here. This part goes down to the water pump. This goes to the coolant, to the radiator. And then the other long hose went all the way up here to the oil cooler. So, in order to get this pipe here out, it takes one T30, and I believe it's on the bottom. Yeah, it's on the bottom on this side. So, let's get it out. Here it is. So the other end of the cable is this right here. We need to get our pair of pliers. Okay. There's our one pipe. It clips in right here in the middle. And we need to get a worm gear. I'll show you. We need to get our worm gear screw off the bottom of the water pump. Okay, so that's all disconnected. We unscrewed here. Next thing we want to do is get our clip off of this one. Looks like the clip is on the top side, from what I can tell. So let me get my screwdriver and get that clip up, and we'll pull out this pipe. There it is. I don't know if that shows up or not, but our pipe is loose. And now I've got to do the worm gear. Told you I was going to do the worm gear, never did the worm gear. Okay, the worm gear is off, or loose. Let's break it free from the water pump. All right, free. Now, this whole thing should come out. All right, she's out. Save our worm gear. Perfect. All right, I put a little coolant on the O-ring. Just get her pushed back in there. There we go. Probably gonna be hard to line up that hole. Oops, screw hole. Okay, the next part we're going to be replacing is from the radiator to that hose we just pulled out. I'll show you where it is. It is this small hose underneath this big hose right here. And it goes to this connector here. Good luck me trying to show you getting that off, but I will endeavor. So if you notice the clip on this hose we're looking for, it goes down. How handy is that? Anyway, let me see about getting that clip to come out, and we'll pull this hose out. I'm not gonna lie, this hose was a devil to get that clip out. I had to push down on this side until it just gave way. There was no luck getting it to do anything on the other side. You'd like to bring it down together, but that's not how it wants to come off. So let's put on our new one. Notice these are two different sizes, small, large. Small goes against the radiator. So let's get her in there. I think she's on. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the clip. Yeah, I think she's on. Let's make our connection for our pipe that we just put in. Let me open that up. It's in both sides. Okay, now we're working on the thermostat. Okay, let's put our thermostat in and make our connections. I'm going to go ahead and make the connection here versus trying to force this on bolted here. I'd rather, if there's any slack or it needs anything, I'd rather do it this way than the other. That takes the T30 and it's in the lower left corner. Okay, now I'm going to tighten up this other worm gear that went from the water pump to the hose that we had to screw the bolt into. I'll pop it up on the screen. Just tightening up that worm gear now. Okay, that worm gear is in. It's this one down here. We've already got the one on the water pump to this hose here. Then we got this one here. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bolt up our thermostat. Okay, before I tighten that one down, let's get the top one in. Okay, the top one is in. And tight. Let's get the bottom one. Bottom one in and tight. Next, let's get this one here in. Come on. You want to go. Okay. It's on there. Next one, let's hook this hose here up. Let's pull up our clip. Okay, let's put our worm gear on for our thermostat, the water pump hose. Next, we're going to put on our new hose for our new water coolant housing. Need a pair of pliers, some air. Okay, that's in. Now we need to slide it onto our thermostat. I broke this, so I need to order this whole contraption. Yeah, so project is on pause until that part gets ordered and comes in. So this is the inlet pipe I had to replace because I broke that off. I will pop up the new part. I went ahead and fitted it because all it is one screw, and it mounts right down here. You can't miss it. You see it right there. It slides in, and there's a bolt on the bottom right corner. This is the orientation right here. It's actually not a bolt, it's a screw. So this notch just goes inside of the bolt, and then you put your screw on top of that. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't record that. But anyway, it slides in, you put your bolt in. There's no need to jack the car up. If you got quasi-flexible hands, you should be able to have it, get that screw on, no problem. That was not hard at all. So everything else is just putting it back together. We've already tightened up all the clamps. All I do is put back on the air box. After I put that on, pushed back in the fitting right there. And the rest was just tightening the system back up, making sure everything's on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put in some coolant, and we're going to bleed the system through the factory method. So let's pick up on that after I put some fluid in the tank. I've not even started the bleeding process, and you can already see in here, it's gurgling. I filled it all the way up to here because I knew it would take fluid when I go to bleed the system, that it's going to pull some fluid through. And I don't want it to run dry. So I'm going to wait for this to finish before we start the bleeding process. In order to bleed the car, I would put it on a TurboCharger because this process takes upwards of 10 minutes to do. So the first thing we want to do is turn the car on. Temperature all the way up on both sides. Not in auto mode. Turn the fan down to the lowest speed. And now let's hold the gas until we hear the pump kick in, which I doubt we will because all the wind blowing. Oh yeah, I hear something. I hear gurgling. Okay, this process can take 10 minutes. Check for leaks, which I'm sure hopefully I don't have, but we will see. Don't see any yet. All right, let's give it some time. The process is done. Topped off the tank. I would recommend staying on top of it just in case, because it will pull everything through. Yeah. All right, so next thing I want to do is put back on the lower piece here, put back on the air box, and put back on my air box top. Anyway, let me get that done. All right, YouTubers, that's it. everything's back together, gone for a test drive. Everything works as it should. The levels are topped off. I think this is quite a simple job to replace these hoses. A screwdriver, a T30, a pair of pliers, and a pick will change every hose under this engine, in this engine. And it's very simple and easy to get to, including that little air intake we had to replace. Just a one bolt, everything just kind of slid in, tighten everything down. Yeah, that's it, YouTubers. If you like the video,